starts in the past with a young girl named Lee. One day, Lee is standing in front of her house when she sees a strange car parked nearby. She doesn't recognize whose car it is. Suddenly, she sees a strange, creepy-looking man standing in front of her. This man speaks to her as if he knows her and even mentions that today is her birthday. This makes Lee very uneasy. Unfortunately, we don't get to see who this man is or what he does to Lee. Years pass, and we see Lee as an adult. She's now an FBI agent. One day, her boss gathers all the agents to inform them that there's a suspected serial killer in a particular neighborhood. The boss orders everyone to head out immediately and find him. Lee heads out with her colleague, an officer named Vesic. When they reach the neighborhood, Lee feels a strange intuition about one specific house, suspecting that the killer might be inside. She asks Vesic to contact headquarters for backup, but Vesic doesn't believe her. With no evidence, he decides to check the house himself before calling for support. When Vesic knocks on the door, a man opens it and immediately shoots him in the head without letting him finish his introduction. Lee is horrified by what just happened, but manages to stay calm. She draws her gun, enters the house, and successfully apprehends the killer. A few days later, Lee is with her boss, Agent Carter, and another colleague, Agent Browning. They are all standing outside the houses of a family called the Huron family, which Carter explains was murdered 2 months ago. The killer was the family's patriarch, who killed his entire family before taking his own life. However, Carter suspects foul play, believing someone manipulated the father into doing this. His suspicion is based on a cryptic note found near the body. The handwriting in the note didn't match anyone in the family, leading Carter to believe a mysterious person, known only as Longlegs, is responsible. Carter informs them that Longlegs has committed multiple murders in a similar fashion, where the entire family is killed by one of their own, and a cryptic note signed by Longlegs is left at the scene. Later, Carter shows Lee evidence and pictures from 10 different cases, all linked to Longlegs because of the similar notes left behind. When Lee asks what the common factor is among all these murders, Carter reveals that in each of the families, there was a daughter born on the 14th of a month. This connection makes Lee start investigating further, working on the case for a long time. One day, Carter takes Lee to a cafe to discuss her findings. Lee explains that in all the cases, the father of the family is the one who goes on a killing spree before killing himself, and there's no evidence of an outsider at any of the crime scenes. She suspects that Longlegs somehow manipulates these fathers to commit the murders, but doesn't participate in the actual killings. After this conversation, Carter asks Lee to drive him home since he's too drunk. She agrees, and when they arrive at his house, Carter introduces her to his wife, Anne, and their young daughter, Ruby. Ruby asks Lee to visit her on her upcoming birthday, which is on the 14th of the month. Lee agrees and heads home, where she lives alone. Upon returning home, she calls her mother to check in on her. While they're talking, Lee hears a strange noise outside her house. She quickly hangs up the phone, steps outside to investigate, but finds nothing. Despite the eerie feeling that someone is nearby, she goes back inside. Later, she finds a letter left on her desk. Inside is a photograph of a little girl with a cryptic note written on the back, signed by Longlegs. Lee immediately realizes that the killer left this message. She works on decoding the note and successfully deciphers it. Longlegs warns her to stay away from his case, or he will kill her mother. Lee becomes extremely anxious, not knowing what to do. At that moment, she receives a call from one of her colleagues, asking her to come to a crime scene. When she arrives, she finds her colleagues, including Carter, already there. Carter informs her that the family in this house was murdered over 2 months ago, but the crime was only recently discovered. He also reveals that Longlegs is responsible, as another cryptic note was found at the scene. The following day, Lee is back at work, focusing on all the cases linked to Longlegs, starting with a case involving the Camera family, which was the first case of its kind. In that case, the father killed his entire family, except for his daughter, Carrie, who is now in a mental institution. Lee discovers that Longlegs follows a specific pattern. Every month, he kills a family that has a daughter born on the 14th, and the murders always happen 6 days after the daughter's birthday. Armed with this new information, Lee goes to Carter and shares her findings. They decide to search the Camera family's old house, hoping to find new clues since this was the first case connected to Longlegs. At the house, they find nothing unusual until they discover a creepy doll buried in the floor. They take the doll to a forensics specialist who discovers that the doll's head contains a strange metallic sphere with an unknown energy source. The doctor tells them that while examining the sphere, he had strange, inexplicable visions. Hearing this, Lee starts to recall memories she didn't know she had, memories of Longlegs making dolls. She senses a connection between her past and the case, but the details are still foggy. Lee and Carter decide to visit Carrie at the mental institution, hoping she might provide some insights. The hospital's director informs them that Carrie hadn't spoken or moved since being admitted, but just 2 days ago, a man named Lee Harker visited her, and since then, Carrie's condition has drastically improved. Lee is shocked because Lee Harker is her name, and she realizes that Longlegs must have used her name when visiting Carrie. When Lee sits down to talk to Carrie, she learns that Carrie had a strange doll, which she believes caused her father to go insane and kill the family. Carrie insists that the doll was responsible for everything, but when Lee asks her about the man who visited her, Carrie refuses to give any information, cryptically telling Lee, "You know who the killer is." Afterward, Carter confronts Lee, revealing that he's been investigating her past and discovered that as a child, Lee's mother contacted the police, claiming that a man called Longlegs was stalking Lee. Carter believes that Lee met the killer when she was young, but has blocked out the memories due to trauma. He suggests that Lee visit her mother to get more information. Lee agrees and goes to see her mother. However, her mother is in a confused state and doesn't provide any useful information, only saying that someone allowed her to grow up and that she can't betray that person. Frustrated, Lee goes to her childhood room to look through her old belongings. Among them, she finds a picture of a strange man. The moment she sees the picture, she recalls a fragment of her past and realizes that she had met the killer, Longlegs, when she was very young. She also realizes that the man in the picture is the killer. Lee takes the picture to Carter, who immediately sends a team to arrest Longlegs. They successfully capture him, and soon after, Lee and the other officers watch a video of Longlegs being interrogated. In the video, he doesn't say anything useful, except that he wants Lee to interrogate him personally and that he knows her birthday is coming up. Lee meets with her colleagues, Browning and Carter, and they learn that the killer's real name is Dale Cable, a member of a satanic cult. However, there's no concrete evidence linking him directly to the murders, only the cryptic messages. Lee insists that Longlegs must have had an accomplice, since it would have been impossible for him to carry out the murders alone. She requests permission to interrogate him herself. During the interrogation, Longlegs cryptically tells Lee that he knows both her and her mother, and that the secret lies in the dolls. The deranged man finishes talking, and then starts banging his head on the table repeatedly until he dies. Lee is left in shock after this. Later, we see Browning driving Lee to her mother's house, as Lee wants to speak with her. After what the killer said, Lee feels her mother knows something, but doesn't want to reveal it. When they arrive at Lee's mother's house, Browning waits in the car while Lee goes inside to talk to her mother. But Lee can't find her mother in the house. Suddenly, she hears a gunshot from outside. She rushes to see what's happening, and finds her mother holding a shotgun and shooting Browning. Lee runs to her mother, trying to stop her, but she won't stop. In her hands, her mother holds a strange doll. Lee realizes that she needs to know the truth, and in that moment, her mother shoots the doll, causing Lee to faint. As Lee loses consciousness, she begins to recall memories from her past. She sees that she did, in fact, meet the killer when she was a child. The killer was about to murder her, but Lee's mother intervened. At that moment, the killer made a deal with her mother. He wouldn't kill Lee, but only on the condition that her mother would help him by assisting in his murders. The way they carried out these murders was simple. The killer would make dolls infused with demonic magic, similar to the metal spear found inside the doll's head, if you remember. Lee's mother was tasked with delivering these dolls to families who had daughters born on the 14th of the month. The magic in the dolls would drive the father of each household insane, causing him to murder his entire family. The magic in the dolls is powerful because it comes from the devil himself, who, as it turns out, is the killer. Yes, the killer is actually the devil. This explains why he had such control over Lee's mother and was able to manipulate her into helping him with the murders. Lee had no recollection of any of this because she, too, had a doll created by the devil. This doll erased her memory, making her forget everything. When her mother shot and destroyed the metal sphere in the doll's head, Lee remembered everything just as it happened. Lee finally wakes up, only to find herself alone in her mother's house. Her mother is gone. Lee quickly grabs her car and drives to Carter's house to tell him everything she's uncovered. But when she arrives, Carter informs her that today is his daughter Ruby's birthday, and today is, in fact, the 14th. He invites Lee inside, and she's shocked to see that Ruby has received a new gift, a strange doll. Lee's mother is also present in the house. At this moment, Lee loses control and tells Carter that her mother is the killer's accomplice. She tries to warn him that the doll is dangerous, but Carter doesn't listen. He is in a trance-like state, and suddenly he takes his wife, Anne, into the kitchen and kills her. He walks back out, covered in blood, ready to kill his daughter Ruby. But Lee is faster and manages to kill him before he can harm Ruby. Now Lee's mother goes into a frenzy, warning that they are all doomed. She reveals that if the devil's commands aren't followed, he will kill them all, just as he was about to kill Lee years ago. The only reason Lee was allowed to live and grow up was because her mother made a deal with the devil, helping him kill in exchange for Lee's life. Her mother finishes her warning, but she's still in a crazed state. She grabs a knife, intending to kill Lee, but Lee manages to kill her instead. Lee knows that in order to break the spell over Ruby, she must destroy the doll. She pulls out her gun to shoot the doll, but her gun jams. Realizing she can't destroy the doll and break the curse, Lee decides to take Ruby and leave, determined to protect her at all costs. The film ends on this uncertain note. If you've reached so far in our video, you're officially awesome. Thanks for sticking around with Chat Craze. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to leave a nice comment. Until next time.